Hello, this is National Chess Master Rats, continuing my video series on the correspondence team match between my video lessons group at chess.com versus Carpe Diem, and this was on board 146, I believe, mid 1600 versus mid 1400 rating. We have Black TJ Maxx Attack 1 versus Lotharan. Let's have a look here. Okay, I have kind of like an English Dutch or Franco-Dutch. Uh, all kinds of names for it. English C4 designates the English. F5 against D4 is the Dutch, but it'll probably transpose into a Dutch. There it is. And it looks like we're in the Leningrad Dutch. That's just the name for it. And D5 might be premature. It doesn't develop a piece. It cedes E5 and C5 squares to activity, perhaps by a black knight. It also opens up this diagonal for the bishop. Let's see how black handles it. Okay, C5, interesting move. Why did I say interesting? Well, we're going to see why in just a couple of moves. Actually, I'll go ahead and start it now. Let me back it up. I believe this move here is imprecise. It's a natural developing move, but let's talk pawn structure here. Okay, we have a locked pawn structure here. This part of the board is closed because of the pawns. And strategically, when you get rid of this knight on BD7. There we go. Strategically, what you'd like to do is attack in the direction your pawn chain points. Attack the base of the opponent's pawn chain, which in this case is C4. To do that, black needs to play B5. This is his break. Now, what's white supposed to do? Well, white's supposed to play for E5, but there's a mild complication here. This pawn's in the way. At some point, it could be played. It could be exchanged off, which would net black a backward pawn on the open file. So it may not be all that bad to have this pawn on F5, and eventually this pawn may go to E5. So why do I say this knight is misplaced? Well, it's because it's not supporting the B5 break. The method to do this is play the knight to A6, bring it back to C7. Then you can play A6, bishop D7, rook B8, and B5. And if need be, queen E8 can even back things up. Now, that's a lot of moves. White has a chance to make moves too. How many moves did I give black? Let's see. 2 knight moves, a bishop move is 3, 2 pawn moves is 5, and a rook move is 6. So black's pawn break is coming on the 6th move, maybe even the 7th if you count the queen move. What's white going to be doing? Well, he's going to castle. He's probably going to put the queen on C2 to control E4. That's 2. Probably going to stick a rook on E1. That's 3. Maybe this rook on D1. That's 4. And his 5th move will probably be E5, E4. So white's going to get E4 in before black plays B5. Let's just take a quick look at that and see. Okay. So sometimes you can plan just by in your head the way I'm doing it. Count the moves. Okay. And we'll see how it works out. Now these variations obviously aren't forced, but I'm just there always might be another move, but we can't have everything we want. And as I was saying, white is ready for E4 before black's ready for A4. White's going to get E4 in first, but it looks like black's going to get B5 in. Now, does white play for E5 here? Well, he might. He just might do that. And white might do other things too. White might play B3. Okay? We don't know what he's going to play, but you see the black pieces are posted in such that they have a plan. They have activity. This bishop maintains pressure on this long diagonal. Black has opened up a file. Here, white's going to get his file opened up. Tempos the knight, and you got to watch E7. Okay, E7 might run into some trouble here. If you move the knight away, this pawn takes, and the E7 pawn is pinned. So this is just a demonstration to show the plan. Now, it doesn't mean everything's forced. It looks like black is going to maybe have to make a couple other preparation moves before he can get all this in. Or he's going to have to simply take on this square and have a very bad pawn on E7. But essentially, this is the plan that black should be trying for, and naturally, more time and effort should be put into preparing that break. But there you see, we saw a clear-cut plan for black in action, and it's in sharp contrast to the plan black actually chooses. So knight bd7 and rook e8. Now this makes sense for what black's trying to do, but it gets black a really bad game. Okay, now the knight's misplaced on b6. As I said, it belongs on c7. This is black's break. He should still try to set it up, but he doesn't. Black instead opts to play e6, but strategically this is not a good choice. This is going to expose a very weak d-pawn that white could have won, and we'll see how that goes here in a little bit. Okay, now this is a major blunder here. Now knight b5 is going to win the pawn, this discovery notwithstanding. Okay, knight b5 attacks the queen. Where are you going to put the queen? You can't go to c6. There's a bishop on it. You want to try b8? Okay, let's try b8. This pawn's a goner. Let's see. How do I want to take it? Let's take it with the knight. Now, is there anything in this discovery I was talking about? Let's see. On the knight, on the bishop, knight takes. Let's grab this. Making an exchange sacrifice here. Okay, now need to grab this. And I don't know, it looks like white has plenty of play here for the exchange he sacrificed. Plus he's got two pawns for it. The dark squares around the black king are extremely vulnerable. White has a dark squared bishop to work those squares. I'm liking white here a lot. So, I don't know how long the players spent. The first 20, most of the first 20 videos I was talking about players moving too quick, and there's still no guarantee and no way for me to tell if someone is moving too quick here. Hope someone a little too far back. Got to get the knight to b6. And a little bit more. Let's see. Right here. Okay. Still, it could be one side's taking 3 days to move and actually taking their time, and the other one is taking minutes. And sometimes even a player who takes 3 days to move has 20, 30, 50, 60, even 200 games going, and they don't answer for 3 days because they just work them in the order that they're running out of time. They answer the one that they're in danger of time pressure first. They maybe have to make 20 play 20 moves. I'm sorry, 20 play a move in 20 games, and they plan on logging in for 1 hour. They start going through the 20 games, look at the position for 1 to 3 minutes, maybe 1 to 5 seconds, as I've definitely seen happen. Select their move and go on to the next game. But when you're playing that many games, you're playing a lot of games. But you're depriving yourself of all the chance you have to learn something. So black never really had a good strategy except to create a weak position. And white now has the advantage and is close to building up a theoretical win. So he missed knight b5, and he put this rook on e1, and even that doesn't make sense. It's the wrong rook. Okay? Unless he's just trying to get off this diagonal. But d1 was the proper square for it. Save e1 for the f rook. Okay, now there's more pressure down here. White's better. White's clearly better here. Okay, defense, and now white gets his e4 break in that we were talking about much earlier, and a little bit of wood comes off the board. But here's an exchange that helps improve the position of black's rook, or white's rook. Did he have another choice? Well, you are threatening to take this guy. This is pressuring d6 to some degree. d5 is covered by this knight. I'm looking at ideas of moving this knight, sacking a rook on e6 and throwing bishop d5 in there, but it's not enough. Well, this is okay, but white's still clearly better. And now look at this move, all the way back in the corner. I just didn't fathom that move. Unprotects the d6 pawn. Maybe black's trying to get this in. But the move black should be trying to get in is d5. Could he do it in that position? No, his rook was under pressure. But I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, if you have to move it, I guess. But a8 just looks bad going back to where it came. And white increases the pressure on the e file, but he should be thinking about the d file. Okay. And there's some pressure on the d file. Comes back and defends. Now remember this bishop had this great diagonal? Now look at it. Ugly piece, defending a pawn. Okay. White just retreats, open up the diagonal of this bishop. Reasonable move, I suppose. White picks up a tempo on that and liquidates our set of rooks. Gets rid of both sets of rooks. Now, this d6 pawn is here for the taking, but watch how white manages to bungle it. Okay, queen d7. Now, the proper move is just, I believe, just play bishop f4, and white's a clear pawn up going into the ending. And black basically has nothing for it. Instead, white gets too clever and outwits himself. Okay, knight takes, and even though it's taking with check, watch what's happening. The queen's under attack and this bishop's under attack. And white's going to lose a piece. Let's back it up slightly. As I say, this move, he basically outwitted himself. The proper move is bishop f4, and black has nothing. Okay? The check may not be that bad. Let's see. Knight takes. Well, you got to have to take here. Now this is pinned for what it's worth. Let's see. If you retreat the knight to guard the queen, this bishop runs, so you need to take it. And I don't know. If you take with the queen, you get this really nice passed pawn, but it might become a target. Take this way. White has a passed pawn and a pawn majority on the king's side. Black has the long-range bishop, which might help. This knight's a little limited, but white's definitely not losing this. Whereas, as the game continuation showed us, he definitely lost. So white loses a piece. Black gets a piece up. White gets some pawns for it. In this case, he actually has 3, but it's just not enough. There's back rank problems that black is threatening, and white has to endure them. The threat is mate on the back rank, and now black has numerous ways to win and finds a very effective way. I think queen d2, threatening a mate, would have done it quickly. There's some clever moves here. Queen d2, how are you going to... Well, let's see. You're not threatening mate here. I guess I'm wrong. I was looking at queen f2 and bishop c5 pinning it, but this little knight over here on h4 is covering g2. So we'll go with queen d1 being excellent move because it leads to a nice little tactic. Check, and the king has one move, and now we force the king into a skewer, and there goes the queen. Goodbye. So nice comeback by black. Black misfired his opening, and white misfired his middle game. Okay, let's look at their next game. Our guy had white. TJ Maxx attack 1. I think this is the game. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't start games at move 1. I just don't know. How did it get to move 8? Maybe version 3 will cure that. I probably said that. Okay, English opening. Botvinnik system, unless you play for d4, but pawn to d3 will designate the Botvinnik system, named after former world champion Mikhail Botvinnik. Funny thing about Botvinnik, he was world champion, but he never won a world championship match. He only won the rematches. He got the title in 1948. They held a tournament with all the best players in the world after Alyekin had died, and Botvinnik won the tournament, was declared champion. And then he either drew his world championship matches or he lost them. He drew one with Bronstein. He lost it to Smyslov and then won it back in the rematch. He lost it to Tal, won it back in the rematch. And then he lost it to Petrosian, and then they changed the rematch clause, and Yeah, he was getting up there in years, and well, not really up there in years, but compared to his youth, he'd been playing grandmaster level chess since the 30s, and it was 1963 when he lost it back. So he was around, give or take, around the age 50. He lived to about 90 years old. It's been gone some time now, but anyway, little history lesson there. Uh, Looks like the game is developing reasonably even. Black is trying to challenge the center. Uh, White doesn't have a very impressive setup here, though. You know, the bishop's it's solid, but you know, White needs to be thinking about trying to occupy d5, and you know, Black's got this d4 square in return. He should be looking to try to get into there. And now Black just outwits himself and ends up getting in a bad position here. Just watch what happens. Okay, attacks the knight. Knight needs to move. It has two squares. He picks a5, and now White grabs the bishop and then throws this knight into d5. And Black is pretty much helpless against seeing his queenside pawns crippled. See, one of the drawbacks. Let's just back it up slightly because I didn't make a comment. One of the drawbacks with the Black system, or the way Black played this, he didn't stop to get castled before he played f5. He didn't complete his development. And when you put the bishop on b4, often you're committed to taking this knight. And actually, Black could have taken it this move and given White double pawns. Of course, Black loses the d4 square, but you know, you can't always get everything you want. But f5 might have been just a tad bit premature. And now probably he should just go ahead and take this guy and finish his development, because now he just starts to get, he's going to have to give up the bishop pair anyway, and he gets his pieces misplaced. So here we go, knight takes, pawn takes, and now the knight hops into d5, and like I say, this move is looming. Not sure if it ever, I don't think it happened, but we'll see. So he took. Now, for what it's worth, Black has this wonderful passed pawn, but there's nothing to protect it, and it's weak. And Black has this wonderful square c5, but he can't access it. If he could get this knight to c5, it would be great. If this bishop were on c8, Black could play knight b7, knight c5. But unfortunately, he can't get it there in time. The moment he moves his bishop back, White just rips that knight. So Black now gets castled. Probably wish he'd castled sooner. And there goes the knight. And even though White has some pawns on the color of his bishop, Black has two very weak pawns. And he's probably going to be two pawns down here in short order. There's one of them. And now the a5 pawn is still weak. I might as well try to advance it, but there's nothing to support it. This bishop isn't helping. The bishop's kind of doesn't really have a place to go unless it can find its way to f5. Okay, so White piles up on the pawn, and Black gets some counterplay on the queen, but it's all for naught. And there goes goodbye pawn. White's up two clear pawns, and didn't have to play f3. That kind of weakened him slightly. But you know, it works. Let's see. There's some lines where you can actually let him take this, if I recall when I was looking at this. But you don't want to let him take that if you don't have to, even if you can. Just f3 makes sense. It does imprison this bishop a little bit, but White's got a lot of luxuries here. He's two pawns up. And he's liquidating pieces. And now there's a mate threat. That's dealt with easily enough. First we check. And then we check again. Then we check again. Here Black's running a mate, and he can't do anything. And now White finds a way to get the queens off the board. End of mate threat. And win a piece. So Black gave it all he could, but what else could he do? He was down two pawns and going to be ground down. And now just a matter of time before things go wrong. White gives up his bishop, knowing that his pawns are advanced enough that he can promote. So here, I'm sure White did take his time to calculate that out. Good job on that. And I don't know why Black's playing on. It's clearly hopeless. And all of a sudden, there's a little checkmate, just like that, which ends the game. So let's back up just for the fun of it. Let's back up to when uh, white played d3. Now black played f5 and bishop d2. What if black just does this? Okay, just do it while you can. Okay, now castle. Let's not mess around with f5 just yet. We're not ready. Well, white has to complete his development too. When I analyze a game, I always develop pieces because anything, king h1, h3, these moves don't do much. So let's look for a developing move. And granted, it's not the only move. We're just looking at one variation. Where can white? What should white develop? Okay, let's put this bishop on e3. Okay, why are we doing that? So we can put the queen behind it, just in case black tries to get frisky here. Okay. Suppose black tries it now. Okay. Now he's threatening to mess up the white pawns. Black as well as maybe hit this bishop, but pawn takes looks nice because then it gives white two targets for black to look after. A nice outpost on c5. White might have to take here. And here comes the knight. And does white want to let him take and take back with the f-pawn and try to get d4 in? Well, black doesn't have to take that bishop. Let's play queen e2. And now since black has a bishop of a light square, let's get pawns on dark squares, okay? This way they make up for the absence of a dark squared bishop. Okay, what's white going to do? Well, develop, right? And now we'll develop again. Where do we want to put this queen? e7. Yeah, I know white has bishop g5, but I'm just developing pieces, okay? I'm just seeing what happens. Now black anticipates maybe this d file will open up at some point, and d file will open up, and black wants to be posted on it. I don't know. It looks like a reasonably even game. Obviously, it's not forced, but this is kind of how you analyze and make developing moves for both sides. Because usually, when you're not developed, you don't have any kind of a winning attack, and any attempt to force things without development. We've seen some of the results of these already in this match. Seen other people try to get something going too quick, and what happens is either it backfires and they get pushed back, or pieces get liquidated and it's very difficult to win. Anyway, I hope this helps everyone learn more about chess. That's one of the whole purposes of me doing these videos. Teach you to slow down and play and analyze and how to analyze. And thanks so much for your time. I'm catching up on all these games. I probably got close to a dozen. But they'll get done. Just be patient. I'm doing them in the order they're received. If you finish a game, it might be a few days. If too many games finish at once, I'm going to get farther behind, but eventually there will come an end, and I will be caught up. But bear with me. They will be here. And thanks again. Bye.